Hey, welcome to Rust Revival Garage. Back at it with part 2 of the 1968 Le Mans Will It Start project. Been a little busy actually, had to install some new fence posts. Wind came along and knocked everything down, so basically I've run a bunch of new fence posts up, got the holes dug. Hey, you want to know what's more fun than digging holes and installing new fence posts? Nothing. Nothing is more fun than that. It's the funnest thing you'll ever do in your life. Anyway, we've got some things to do before we can start up that Pontiac. Hopefully you had a chance to check out video 1 where we do a walk around on the car and I can show you everything that's been done so far. But today we're going to do a couple things. I need to check the transmission fluid, make sure there's automatic transmission fluid in there. I need to install a new fuel pump. I need to install some new fuel lines and see if I can get the vacuum lines figured out, get the throttle cable onto the carb, get the carb nailed. There's a bunch of things I got to do, so let's get to it. Alright, so yeah, one of the big projects I want to do, see if I can't install a new fuel pump. I'm sure the one that's been in there that's been sitting for 23 years is shot. The concern that I do have is doing too much before I try to start this up. If I change too many things out, am I going to not be able to figure out where I went wrong, considering it was a running and driving car when I parked it? But again, just kind of concerned about that fuel pump, so not sure. I figured maybe go ahead and change that out since I've got it. But I definitely need to get the carburetor hooked up, need to get the vacuum lines hooked up. The fuel line that's running from the line from the back to the fuel pump is rock solid. So I'm definitely going to replace that. See if I can get this swapped out. I've got a brand new fuel line too, the hard line that runs from the fuel pump up to the top of the engine that I can then run it straight into the carburetor. So I've got new fuel lines for those, or fuel hoses for that as well. First thing I want to do is get this carburetor secured down. Got some new studs that I want to use, a little bit longer than these, and these small ones I only had 3. Kind of don't work too well if you only have 3. How does this fit? Alright, so it is on the outside. These studs may be way too long. We shall see. And let's turn them a little bit. Alright, I'll get these tightened on and we'll see how they fit. Got those bolts tightened up. Gonna go ahead and put on the gasket. Let's get this car back on. Let's get our washers. Oh, this is going to be a tight fit. This This was literally the only carb stud kit they had. And it was not cheap. Like $16. So I'm going to use it. This must be for like a spacer. That's good news. If I ever decide to put a spacer on this carb, I can do it because I've got 3-foot long studs. Problem solved. That one was way too long, so I put the short one on this one down in here. So that should give me the clearance to get that tightened up because there is just not any room down in here. But yeah, let me go ahead and get the rest of these bolts and washers tightened up, or the nuts and washers tightened up, and we'll get back to you when it's done. It's all a learning experience. Yeah, this next part, you're gonna love this. When I first got the car, put on the new Holley carburetor, put on the new Edelbrock manifold, did not take the time to figure out how to take the original little bracket off of here, and so I basically just hooked this whole piece up to the Holley carburetor, and I'm going to kind of correct that now if I can. But yeah, I want to get this little clip out. Help if I tighten it down. All right. And that's why I did it. This is all part of that one piece. And I don't have anything that can go through there. That's why I did it. Alright, I gotta see if I can find a small bolt that I can put through there to attach this to the throttle on the carburetor. Yay! Alright, so I found a very, very tiny bolt and nut that hopefully will allow me to connect my throttle cable. It's actually a pretty good fit. Oh, my fingers are way too big for this. But maybe I can make it work. Look at that. Alright, so we've got our throttle cable connected. Carb is down nice and tight. It's got a little wiggle room. The only problem is I just don't have that little cotter pin piece, so there's probably something I have to pick up, but for now I've got it connected. But yeah, I need to be able to get a throttle spring on here so I can pull it back, even though wide open throttle is kind of fun. One of the other things that I've done, I think I mentioned in the first video, got a new coil, new cap, new rotors. I also have this new ballast resistor, and so pretty much I should be good to go with my electrical, new cables, new wiring. The only thing is, need to get a new battery. The cables look like they're still in pretty decent shape. Don't know about the starter, but everything up here should be good to go. The only thing I did not change out was the points. Again, didn't want to mess too much. I did file a little bit in between them, but I did not change out the points. I have a set of points and condenser, but again, that's one too many things I'm adding to the mix of hoping this thing will start up. I also have ordered a PVC valve and grommet to fit down in here. That will be here tomorrow. And I do want to run the vacuum lines. This is actually a thermo vacuum. It's a thermo vacuum switch, basically. A lot of cars will run vacuum advance straight to the carburetor. On the Pontiacs, they have a vacuum switch where you actually run your vacuum advance to this, and this is actually down into the temperature sensing part of the manifold. And supposedly how it works is when it's cold, it increases the vacuum or something like that, and then sends the vacuum back to the carburetor to actually apply more based on the temperature of the car, which is kind of neat. There was actually a 5 sort of nipple version of this switch, and in '68 they recalled it and said it's not working. They didn't then put in a 3-port switch, which this one does have, and basically said to use it this way or to cap off the 5-port switch. And so I do need to run the vacuum lines for the advance. So let's see. I believe this one is coming in here, going to the underside of the carburetor. Vacuum advance. Let's see if I can run that below the spark plug wires and right into there. Then it's got a new piece cut off to run from the switch up to here. Alright. And I think I might end up capping this bottom one off because I do not know where that one goes. Alright, I'll have to grab a cap. Oh! Also need to attach the ground on the choke. There's the long bolt. Hopefully I've got a good ground connection there. And let's hook up the power to the choke. Now yeah, the only other opening I've got back here, I believe the PVC will go in here and then I can run that line back to that. This is the fuel line that I've got to hook up next. I do not have power steering in this car, so I do not have to run anything from the brake boost over to the carb. So I think that's pretty much going to be it for the carb. As far as the vacuum lines, the other thing I want to do is make sure we've got transmission fluid. This is the first time I have checked this ever since I parked it 23 years ago. So hopefully the fluid is not too bad. It's actually still got a fairly decent pink color, and it looks like there's a decent amount in there. So I do not think I'm going to need to, we can check it, of course, if we get it to start. Once we get it to start, we can check it again, because I know it does tend to change once you are running the car and the pump is working. But yeah, I think we're going to be good to go on, at least as far as the transmission level is. So that's good news. I did buy some transmission fluid just in case. I probably, if I can get this thing started and I'm ready to start driving it around, I most certainly am going to want to change that transmission fluid because I did overheat it, and it's also pretty old now. So it's not a bad thing to change out that. But again, first I want to see if we can get this thing started, make sure everything is going good, make sure everything's running. As far as the oil levels go, I've actually already changed the oil. So we've got a pretty good level, brand new oil with all of the good zincs. It's also the VR1 designed with the extra zinc for classic cars. So we are good to go on oil, transmission fluid. Now we've got the carb. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this fuel system situated. Well, this was a fun find. Actually found a bolt. I wanted to check the bolts to see if I could find out what I needed to get the bolt out of the fuel pump, and just came across this little beauty. This is actually a 12-point bolt. Apparently they were stock for Pontiac 64 to 67. The fuel pump bolts used a 12-point socket, and I got this one off with a vice grip because that was the only thing. Everything that I've got is the 5-sided sockets, and got this one off with a vice grip. The problem is that the other one is back behind the fuel pump. It's sort of buried down in there, and you can't get vice grips down in there. Did look it up, and it turns out that 64 to 67 Pontiacs used these 12 points. This is a 68, and I'm still convinced that a lot of the stuff that's on here is original. So I think we're just looking at it that the Pontiac maybe had some leftover 12-point bolts, and they used these on their fuel pumps. But let's see if I can get the other one off. Turns out I've got a little shorty wrench. It's got 12 sides to it, and there's just enough room to wiggle it back and forth that much. And hopefully I can get this bolt out, because there is just no room for my big fat hands to get in there. I think now it's just not turning on its own. Alright, gravity works well.
Let's see, can I get this out? Come on.
Alright, so I've got the fuel pump loose. Alright, let's see if I can get that wrench back. Still ratcheting. Just happened to have this on hand. Honestly, everything about the cars is just having the right tool. So yeah, this is what I had to use. And of course it still won't turn by hand. I think I may have to use this bolt to put them back in, because it's a specific depth. If you don't get this fuel pump back on just right with the right kind of bolts, right size bolts, it can still leak on you. The last thing I want to do is leak fuel, especially with a new fuel pump. Come on, you gotta be almost out by now. How long is this bolt? There we go. Alright, so we got the bolts out. Let's go back underneath and disconnect that. The fuel line that's on there, we'll replace that fuel line and get the gasket surface scraped up and see if we can't get our new fuel pump on. Alright, let's see if we can get this fuel pump off. not working. It's too thin. Yeah, this fuel line is so hard. It's basically coming apart, but I cannot get the clamp to drop down far enough. Alright, finally got it away. Alright, so we've got the clamp down off there. Come on, baby. Do not want to damage Alright, got the old one off. Just don't want to damage the hard fuel line. Alright, let me take that one off and see if I can get that off. The surface up here looks pretty good. Not a lot of chunks. I was hoping I'd be able to feel the timing chain in there, but I cannot tell. Can't see it, can't feel it. Alright. Got the old fuel pump out, and probably a good idea that I did it just because it's, I mean, you can tell this fuel line is just shot. But we'll replace the fuel line. Let's get a new fuel pump in. Got to clean up that gasket surface first, and I think we're good to go. Now we need to clean up that surface. There's not a lot of gunk and stuff on here, so that's good. The other problem I have is that the bolt came out on the opposite side, and now I don't know where it is. Got a good clean surface to mate the new gasket and fuel pump to. Now we gotta find that bolt. Alright, the bolt and the wrench actually. Gotta find them both. Alright, got the bolt shined up a little bit, use some brake clean on there. Almost good as new. Let's get it back in. Time to slide that fuel pump back up in here. And at least get one of the bolts started from down here. Tear the gasket. Alright. Got one started. Hopefully I can do the other one without the gasket getting in the way. And I may need to do that from up top. Alright, looks like we're getting it going. And let's tighten her up with my little tiny wrench. There we go. Alright, how much fuel line do I need? Basically need to go from here to here. All right. Let's see. First I need my clamps. You know what? I think I'm going to use different clamps. I'm going to use the little small ones and wrap them around, then screw them on. Because I do not want to have to fight with those things to get them to fit. Alright. Come on, baby. Really? You're not gonna fit? There we go. There's just no leverage. There we go. No kinks. Alright, I'll put the clamps on and we will have complete fuel line. Remember, we've got a new fuel tank. I did not replace the hard lines between the tank and up here, but from hopefully there weren't any leaks before, so hopefully we won't have any problems. And this fuel line is new. I'm going to install the hard line going up to the manifold, and then I'll use my extra fuel to go to my carburetor. Alright, let's see if we can get our new fuel line installed. Oh, that's kind of high. Nope, I think we'll be okay. Okay, slight change of plans. I actually may have bent the hard fuel line that I had, so, well, okay, I did bend it. So I'm gonna head out to Jegs and see if I can find something that will work on the LeMans. It's always nice when the C10 can be used as a shop truck. Get out of my way, people. Come on. People ask me how fast do I drive. I drive as fast as the car ahead of me. Okay. About $100 poor, but I'm basically going to go with AN lines. I picked them up at Jegs. The other thing I got, basically that throttle cable connector. Kind of wasn't sure I would go with the bolt and nut that I found that fit through that to hold on the throttle cable. I wanted something that could basically also swivel, so I picked up that. But yeah, I'm going to go with the AN line, and because I didn't want to just run straight fuel line, but the Where'd it go? But yeah, I trying to put this in. I kinked it, and I think I also stripped the fitting that was on there. So hopefully the fuel pump is fine, and I didn't strip that out as well, and I can actually use the AN stuff. So let's go ahead and try to put this on. But tightening this is going to be a bit of a bear. And I'm going to mark it all up. There we go. There we go. And this will probably leak. Knowing me, but at least it's a starting point, and we won't know till we get there. All right. Come on, little washer, stay back. And I need to, what I've decided to do is put the filter down between the fuel line from the hard line to the fuel pump. That way I've got a filter on there, and then I've got this hard line complete all the way up from the fuel pump to the carb. I would prefer to be able to have that see-through filter up here so I could make sure it's pumping and filling up. But no kinks. It's nice and loose. We're good to go with our fuel line. Alright, I've got to get this grommet in for the PVC. And I should have done that before I put the intake on. But let's see if I can squeeze it on. Alright, so we've got the PVC valve in there, but I do not have any hose the appropriate size that'll take me from here back to here. So that one I'll have to leave that up for another time, hopefully before we try to get it started. And I want to change out this heater hose. So let's do the heater hose now. So this was the old hose that I took out. Basically looks like a garden hose, but it's the correct shape. So this won't have quite the same good shape, but it'll look a little better, and it's not quite as chewed up as that one is. I think some rodents got to it at some point. With Pontiacs, you've got two different hoses. The hose can run from here back here to the heater core. As you can see, this one was never used. It's always been in there. I've never touched it. And then that one runs, basically you have two that can run from here to here, and then from there over to, there's a nipple on the back of the head on Pontiacs. So some people will bypass that. This one was actually bypassed, where it will go from the water pump directly to the nipple in the back of the head. And that's kind of what I'm going to continue doing here. Basically the way I had it set up before. Scraped off a bunch of the gunk that was on there. Applied a little grease. And I got it on. I just like the smaller diameter hose. I'm going to angle it up here because I'm going to have a fan in the way. So I want to make sure I can get to it. Let's see if... Alright, got this side in. Got to run it. The hose actually goes in here. I'm going to run it back there and see if I can get it to fit. Alright, so it goes there. Let's wrap it around. There. And there is no way I'm going to be able to get to a clamp to tighten it down. Well, let's see how it goes. You know what? I'm going to do the clamp on the other side. I think I might have a better shot. Oh, my hands are... Don't work on cars if your hands are big. It's just not easy. I think I might have to get it started with a screwdriver. This is why it's not fun for me to have to do anything with the distributor, because there is no room back here. The hood is pushing on my head. Alright, that got it started. Let's see if I can tighten it now. Doesn't look pretty, but it's on. So yeah, now basically the water pump is going to pump the coolant directly into the head, which cools off this side better than that side. But I've actually seen some guys, I think Fast Monte's garage, he's actually got a T, and he put another nipple in that head and basically allows both heads to cool at once. But for now, this will help us get closer to getting this baby started up again and being able to keep her cool. Hey, so thanks very much for tuning in. That's going to do it for this episode. Still got a lot to come. Just had to check a few things off my list in order to attempt to get this thing started for the first time in 23 years. So please subscribe so you can keep up with future episodes. Hopefully we're going to be starting this thing fairly soon. Still need to get a battery, do some other tests, get some gas in it, and check the starter. Check to make sure that everything's going okay with that starter. I'm sure it's a Pontiac starter, which sometimes can be hard to get to, and hopefully that one works. So yeah, anyway, please Please subscribe, like if you got anything out of it, if you appreciated the video, comment to let me know what all I missed, what I got wrong. I'm sure there were quite a few things in there. But that was the very first time I've ever put on AN fittings, so I've learned something new this time too. Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Take care.